Hey, Ricky, you know what's awesome?
What's that, Billy?
Big Trouble in Little China.
Big trouble in Little China.
So, Scott and I did a fresh eyes on Big Trouble in Little China because this is one of those movies where, even if you've seen it, a handful of times or a handful of dozens of times, there's always something new. There's always something. And then whenever we were doing the fresh eyes kind of treatment, where you watch it as if new, like you've never seen it before, and the one word that just kept coming out as I'm watching this movie is like, who greenlit this one? Because it's just like so weird. It's so weird. Like it starts off, kind of just as a straightforward like buddy comedy sort of thing, but then by the end you've got giant inflatable eye brain monsters and a thing that looks like the Fluffy from Creepshow, and just like. And this movie just starts at the beginning and steps on the gas, and it doesn't let up in its strangeness. And so it is really something. It's really something to see. If it's been a while, or if you haven't seen Big Trouble in Little China in a while, and if you just watched it yesterday and you're just used to certain scenes, watch it again and be like, okay, imagine walking into the theater for the first time, and all you know is it's a Kurt Russell movie. And then watch it from the beginning to the end and be like, just blown away how bizarre this thing is.
That's exactly my story. Me and my wife, girlfriend at the time, and some other people went to see this movie just because our weekend trip was let's just pick a movie, go see it. We hadn't seen a trailer, didn't know anything about it. Like you said, we saw Kurt Russell in it and thought, hey, why not? This looks, just the poster art, I was like, this looks crazy. And we were just absolutely blown away by just how random and unusual this movie was. And we fell in love with it instantly. And, it like you said, I think, why did it get greenlit? Because John Carpenter was doing it. He was just coming off of his really first kind of failure off of this, right? So everything else he had done has been gold up to that point. And, The Thing, which we now know is one of the greatest horror movies ever made, flopped. Mm-hmm. So, and then he kind of churns this thing out. So it's almost like just because it was him and had his name, it's like Tarantino. Tarantino just decided to do another film, everybody be like, okay. Mm-hmm. I think that's part of it. And I felt like he was like, yeah, I can kind of just do whatever I want to do, and people will go for it. And not long after that, people started throwing on the brakes, But you think about the impact of this movie and why you and I are still talking about it. Look at everything that is in this movie that is Billy Stuart and Ricky Morgan, right? Mm-hmm. High-flying kung fu, Star Wars type special effects, monsters. It's everything. It's everything we wanted to grow up and be, man.
Well, I was for sure, and that's what I'm saying is it's just like I said, I just say it's weird, and it is because, but at the same time, it's weird in an awesome way, because it's like every scene that just keeps getting weirder. It's another thing to enjoy. And this is one of those movies where a lot of the scenes, it's kind of like The Big Lebowski, where the movie is so long, it's almost hard to watch it from beginning to end. But every individual scene is a classic in and of itself, that you can take it in little bites. And you can watch, 10 minutes, 20 minutes of it and come away being completely satisfied. Like, oh, dude. Yeah.
It's almost an ultimate popcorn flick. Mm-hmm. It's the roller coaster ride. It sets real nicely as well up against like an Evil Dead 2 or a Reanimator, because it's got that kind of humor to it. But then it also has some movies where you kind of go, oh, that was kind of, that's pretty good, So, yeah, it's just brilliant.
And I do remember when Mortal Kombat first came out.
Oh yeah.
And the character of Raiden,
Sure.
the Storm.
Yep.
And just being like, whoa, like they made that guy into a kick-ass karate guy fighting in this tournament. It's like, what would you do if one of the Storms landed? You're Johnny
Right.
Kang with Johnny Cage, which is essentially a Van Damme type character.
Absolutely.
And then the Storm lands, and he's like, all right, I got lightning on you. It's like back then you have certain nostalgia pieces, it's so deeply embedded that you don't even really realize that's what you're seeing. You just know that it's cool. Like,
Yeah.
before you ever drop your quarter, you're like, I want to be that guy. The guy with the lightning from Big Trouble in Little China.
So I don't know if you know this. I may have told you before, but I just said this on a podcast, Bite Size Cinema, which is, if you haven't listened to Bite Size Cinema, as soon as this episode is done, go over and check it out. It's my buddy R.J. McCready, hint, hint, from The Thing. Check out one of his episodes, any of them, or especially if you can find some with Dan Bone on there, check those out. They're both awesome. But he had me on to talk about this movie particularly, and a little nostalgia, or trivia, I guess is the best word for it, is when Danny and I started Hail Ming was not our first choice for a name. The first choice was Six Demon Bag. And which is what Egg Shin's carrying in the movie. And unfortunately, somebody else had snagged that name and used it and made like 4 episodes of a podcast, and they quit. But we didn't want to take the name because of that problem. So that's how Hail Ming came about, because we were going to be Six Demon Bag. I've even still got some logos made for that. So there you go,
Wow.
folks. We were going to be a Big Trouble in China based podcast instead.
Talk about names being had, man. Like, whenever we were talking, Scary Dad or whatever, but I had an idea and I wanted to do kind of like didn't know what I wanted to do, but I had a good name for a band, and it was from or for a project, and it was from Quint's speech in Jaws, and it was the Sharks Come Cruising. You Google Sharks Come Cruising, there's a band with that name. I'm like, all right, well, those guys have to be cool, because that's...
Oh. Yeah, anyway, of course, I went through a lot of
But yeah.
band names to call a band just to get people's attention. I always thought Batman and Robin would be a good one, right? You drive by a club and says, tonight only, Batman and Robin. You're going to stop. Right? Or,
yeah, you're going to take a look. Be like, hey.
My favorite was Flamin' Monkey, but that one got shot down.
Again, I definitely have to check them out.
But yeah, man, back to the subject. I never get tired of this movie. Everything about it is just so pleasing. And let's face it, it really works because of John Carpenter. Because of Kurt Russell. I mean...
Well, both.
Yeah, but his character in this, I mean, the cheap John Wayne imitation he's kind of doing here to carry this Jack Burton character is just so awesome. And it's just like, Roy Schneider from Jaws. This is what he's playing. The guy that should not be in this situation. He's not prepared. He's the total underdog, and he plays it off so well because he still tries to keep his cool, even though you can tell he's not made for this.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing that's so funny is he is the sidekick, who's completely out of his element. Like, he doesn't know karate. The people who do know karate are could just wipe the floor with him. He's a sidekick. He's a helper. He's
right.
Which is an odd thing. It's like, and if you think about hero movies from the 80s, you had your big bravado guys, your Schwarzeneggers, your Stallones, and for Kurt Russell to have that sort of prescience to be like, okay, I can't take myself too seriously here because I'm the lead, but I'm not the hero.
Right.
Like, I'm not the... Like, I'm a bumbling sidekick through this entire thing, which is a weird sort of anachronism in in hero movies,
Yeah.
But it's like he doesn't know how to use a gun, and whenever he does finally figure out how to make it shoot, it like drops bricks on his head, stuff like that.
He turns turns the safety on, and he shoots that guy and kills him. He's like, "First time you plugged a guy? Of course not."
But yeah, he's there just. I mean, was it? He's just playing cards with his buddy, and his buddy's like, "Hey man, I need you to come to the airport with me." He's like, "Okay," like we're running an errand, and then just like we say, the movie just goes from running a quick little errand to just tumbling down this strange rabbit hole, and he's just there along for the ride, and he's just trying to look cool, but in reality, he's got no idea what's going on.
Yeah. we're taking the adventure
so
with
cool.
him.
So
and
cool.
That's what makes it so awesome. Is you relate to this guy, even if he is a truck driver who talks to himself on the CB all night. Nobody else is listening. And I don't know. You totally identify with him. And come on, man.
Well, especially us, because we do that ourselves.
Sure, that's kind of what these shows are, right? It's us wanting to be Jack Burton. Have you paid your dues, Rick? Yes, sir. The check is in the mail.
Coming at you from the Pork Chops Express.
Yeah, I've actually had cars named that, so there you go. And come on, man, Kim Cattrall. I mean, this is where, she was. Come on, between this and Mannequin at the time, she was just smoking.
Yeah. I remember, and I don't want to get off subject, but I remember Mannequin was one of those that was, it'll never be on What's Awesome, but it was one of those shows that was on HBO all the time, and if you're our age and you didn't see Mannequin like 24 times,
right.
Then...
I mean, it was kind of like Kim
on.
Kim Cattrall and Mannequin, and that's absolutely her hottest. That's where she's looked her absolute best. And then Tanya Roberts in Beastmaster. I mean, come on.
Oh yeah. So and then she's in Big Trouble in Little China. And she has no idea what's going on either. But like she's
yeah.
And I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself, but the villain is one of the most likable villains. Like he's straight up pure evil, but he's got he's just got that that demeanor about him where he's just like very matter of fact, like, oh yeah, come on in, like we're having a blast, we're having fun. It's just like it's hard not to like him, even though he's a really not a good guy,
Well, I mean, he's not even alive, right? I mean, he's a ghost for the most part, and he's floating around with light coming out of his mouth and eyes, and but the part where he's the old guy and they put now what is this? Now this pisses me off to no end. I mean, it's just none of it was meant to be taken serious, and I think that's a problem a lot of people have with it, is because this movie could have went down a lot of different avenues, but it decided to keep that tongue-in-cheek comedy going just the whole time.
And I think that might have been... I think you're right, and I think that might have worked maybe against Carpenter, because he was known for such... I mean, there is not a single funny moment in the thing,
No.
There's not a single funny moment in Christine. There's not anything fun about Halloween. Like he's serious as a heart attack the whole way through, and then he gets to this one, and he's like, okay, let's cut up a little bit, and everybody's expecting something else.
Well, look what he followed this one with Prince of Darkness. I mean, come on, how dark of a movie do you want to get here, right?
But with this one, at least, it's like like even the deaths, like you said, it's funny, it's tongue in cheek, it's campy, it's old school. Like even the deaths, there's never anything that lands with too much gravity, with too much weight. Like even whenever they're under fire and there's bad guys and there's storms and like the world's coming to an end, they're still cracking jokes and like kind of dogging on each other and And then Wang is super badass, like he's been training for this his whole life, And you have to wonder, like, it can't be that he's actually been training for this his whole life. He's kind of in a situation himself. He's just like, oh crap, there's people I need to, kung fu on.
Right.
But he kicks a lot of ass, and it's fun.
Sure. And what's funny, because we're talking about just the way this movie works, and just like with the whole Kurt Russell character, Jack Burton, there's almost an unlimited list now of movies that use the same formula that you don't necessarily tie back into. That's the first one I know of that was that way. Seriously. Mm-hmm. I mean, where Jack Burton was, like you said, the sidekick. I mean, we've had other people that were the underdogs and stuff, but this was a different feel because he was totally out of his element and he knew it, but still tried to play cool. And we have seen countless movies, countless series that take this idea and run with it. And it's just amazing that this movie, to me, just seems to get more and more popular as we go along because people are finally catching on to it and realizing the impact that it had on everything. I mean, the effects were really good for the time. Just the craziness of it. Hey, you can have a high-flying special effects martial arts movie and it still be fun, and I don't know. I think it's a game changer.
Oh, absolutely. It's like, just the inspiration it had on, like, even like we just mentioned, on video games. I mean, a whole different generation of kids are like, they never heard of the movie, but their favorite character is this one, and it's one of the storms from Big Trouble. But no, man, there's too much fun to be had in this. Like you said, to take it, if you're taking it seriously at all, then you're missing the point. And I think that's all there is to be said about that, because it's just
the fact
we got to get into some of the
story writing too is left so open. Just think about like when Wang and Jack decide to break into Lopan's place, right? They come in like they're the telephone company, and they've got one telephone with them, but no tools. They're not wearing any kind of uniforms. They come in, oh, it sure is raining cats and dogs. Boy, it's a reference. I tell you, last time we was here, there was squirrels chewing on the wires, just BSing their way through everything. I just think, if there's any way that a spirit, an evil spirit who's trying to regain his way back to the earth and rule from beyond the grave, had a den full of extraordinary superpower ninjas, or whatever you want to call these guys, you're not going to allow a guy just to walk in with a phone in his hand. And there's security guards there, but they don't even stop him. It's just like, that's the fun of it, And what about the prison? That's just the women prison that's in there for some reason. It's like, what?
Well, and then the cage and the water and all of that stuff, and it's just like who do you have to install this? It's like, and then of course the layer at the bottom, the final boss. It looks like the inside of a shopping mall.
Oh man, it's incredible.
Like under the.
Man, I remember the
underground.
First time,
it is so.
First time seeing that in the theater, man, I was just blown away. I was like, this is the coolest room in the history of mankind.
Then all the different monsters and the demons, and it's just.
And you know what I love about those two? They're not perfect. I mean, the creature that grabs Gracie Law and carries her over his shoulder. I mean, you see the guy, you see him take steps, and his rubber feet are real long compared to his real feet, and you can see him just da-boing, da-boing when he steps. You know what? Leave it in there. Who cares, right?
Well, too, like you say, it's like whenever they finally get into the warehouse, and kind of into the lair, it's kind of like the screenwriters, like not John Carpenter. It's like John Carpenter was just like, hey, let's just roll with it. It's like the screenwriters had a straightforward kung fu movie, and then they got to a point where they're like, okay, now what? It's like, let's have a strange, like, a soul, prison of souls and a bunch of weird monsters and demons, and it's just like all this stuff just kind of hangs out and lives in this underground lair, and let's just film it. Just cut it up. Let's go.
Yeah.
Where are we going? We have no idea. We'll tell you when we get there.
And that's what's amazing about it, because there is no foreshadowing of where this thing's going to go, how it's going to end. It really takes you on a ride, and we're missing that again, that wonderment that movie brings to you, just because it's so outlandish that nothing really does surprise you. You don't kind of go, no, you're like, yeah, okay, I'll buy that. Right? So, that's kind of what we're missing. And how many times have we been threatened with a remake, right? And I'm so glad that they haven't done it yet. I know it's going to happen eventually, because it's too much of a hot button, right? I mean, when you start making T-shirts that are the same logo as Jack Burton's wearing, and, I mean, I've got one. So, when it's that much of a hot topic, no pun intended, it's bound to be regurgitated, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm surprised they never tried to do a series, like a TV series out of it.
I was gonna say, I think the reason they either haven't done a remake or they're whatever is because, just like we said before, I don't think a lot of people actually get it. It's like, what was this movie supposed to be? Was it supposed to be a horror comedy? Was it supposed to be an action flick? Was it supposed to be a supernatural, dramedy? Like, what was it supposed to be? And of course, then you got all your think tanks up in Hollywood that'll be like, okay, well, I think this is what it's supposed to be. And then if you can't, it's like, for example, it's like they remade Evil Dead, and that's fine because Evil Dead was a flawed independent horror movie.
Sure.
Yeah. They went to make it very, very much what maybe Raimi would have had in mind had he had the budget. But you can't really remake Evil Dead 2. Like,
no.
Unless you did it with like Muppets or something like that
right.
Meme talks about. Like if you could take the theater of bizarre to another level of weird, but you can't remake that movie.
Yeah.
So like Big Trouble's one of those where I don't think anybody can quite put their finger on as to what it was actually supposed to be in the beginning. So then they can't remake it properly.
Well, again, it all comes back to Jack Burton. I mean, you think about the lines in the movie, and it's the response you get from him that makes it a memorable film, right? I mean, you got the creature that comes out of the wall in the cave and grabs the guy and eats him, and egg shin throws the thing and it blows up and he goes, "You will come out no more," all official, right? And Jack goes, "What? Huh? What'll come out no more?" I mean, that's what makes it, right? I can't see The Rock or anybody else portraying that kind of emotion because he totally is shocked by what he's seeing,
Yeah, and he's just like killed a guy, like you say, he just killed a guy, and he's like served with all of the trauma that goes with it, and he's still playing off like, it's cool. And then at the end, and whenever he actually does save the day, completely by accident, because he's got it's a conditioned response, like, then he's just like, "Oh yeah, baby, I did that."
That's me. Yep. Yeah, I mean, and the whole thing with trying to find his truck, and he even has that breaking point himself when he's like, "Okay, you know what? I'm going home. You can keep your money." It's just. He's finally reached the point of, okay, this might even be too much for me. And of course, by then he's already in too deep. But, still the fact of him playing it off when he's on the phone with his insurance company, and Uncle Chew comes in, and he's like, talks about seeing David Lope on the street. "Oh, sure, you know what I'm talking about. First you see him, then you don't. Stands about 9 foot tall with light coming out of his mouth." Trying to pass it off as everyday stuff.
It's not affected. It's not affecting me too badly, but you know what I'm talking about. Like this is what I've seen. This is what's going on.
And another thing
man.
about this movie that's a big changer too, man.
There's a lag, like you're cutting in and out. So if I'm not responding properly, it's because you're kind of choppy, and so like I'm kind of catching what you're saying, but I'm not 100%. So I don't know if the connection's bad on my end or yours, but
it's working good here.
Okay, I'm gonna keep recording. I'm just gonna restart Skype and see if I can't get a better connection. So.
This is Jack Burton in the Pork Chop Express, and I'm talking to whoever's listening out there.
It's a pretty amazing planet we live on here, and a man would have to be some kind of fool to think we're all alone in this universe.
There is a hidden world where ancient evil weaves a modern mystery.
What's going on here? Is this some kind of...
Magic. The darkest magic.
They call it Little China.
Finally, we shall bring order out of chaos.
It's where Big Trouble was waiting for Jack Burton.
Who? Jack Burton. Me.
Jack!
Jack?
Jack!
They told him to go to hell.
You make one move.
And that's just where he's going.
Somebody, I don't care who, tell me what is going on.
How are you gonna spring us?
I have no idea. There are many mysteries, many unanswerable questions, even in a life as short as yours.
My destiny rests in your capable hands.
Hey, I'll do my best.
Oh, God, is this really happening?
This is gonna take Cracker Jack timing, Wang. 1, 2, 3. We may be trapped.
Total concentration.
Safety! Yeah.
You ready, Jack?
I was born ready.
Way to go, Jack.
Jack Burton's coming to rescue your summer.
Hey, what more can a guy ask for?
20th Century Fox presents Kurt Russell in John Carpenter's Big Trouble in Little China.
It's all in the reflexes.
Hello.
Hello. Let's see if that is better than it was before. So yeah,
so.
just yeah, it's still
I'm
a
hot.
little bit weird, but we'll get through it. It's all right.
All right. My air conditioning is not working. They didn't have it on today, so it's like really warm up here in this room. So.
Oh no.
So, another thing too.
Yeah,
that,
we're up to about
sorry.
112. Like it sucks.
I think it felt like 105 today. I mean, even though the thermometer says high 80s, the humidity is so bad, and which is really bad about living here. We got really bad humidity.
Yeah, we do too. It's like breathing mosquitoes half the year.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right, what are we gonna say next?
Well, one thing that I always really saluted this movie to was the fact of at the end when he doesn't take the girl and they run off happily ever after. He just kind of says, "Nah, I'm good." You know? To me, that was really different too. And
yeah, there's.
Go ahead.
Oh. Yeah, there's very much a like. He doesn't kind of in the end he does kind of lean off the bravado a little bit, like just a little bit, be like, yeah, you know, it's like I was in over my head a little bit. Like,
I love the fact of well, crap, I forgot where I was going. Again, just the tons and tons of quotable lines in this. The reason I keep bringing it up is because when Danny and I worked together in Nashville, we were both honored in being selected in the company to be on an individual page. You know, they had little flip calendars, and they had an employee on each page, and you had to have a quote. And both of our quotes were Jack Burton quotes.
Nice.
Oh, and it was supposed to be like quotes about work, customer service is, I think that's what it said. Customer service is, and I think he said, one of us said it's all in the reflexes. Another one said, "Give me your best shot, pal. I can take it."
That's awesome. That is really cool.
Yeah.
And they printed it. They're like, I don't know where that came from, but that's inspiring.
You're right. I think that's the ones we used. I want to say that yes, sir, the check's in the mail was might have been the other one. I can't remember for sure. Fun times, man. Troublemakers. But yeah, to me, this movie it's still just one of a kind. It's really hard to even say what you put it up against. Well, I guess the best thing is you can almost say it's a kung fu version of Flash Gordon. I mean, when you think about
kinda,
it,
sorta, yeah.
There's a lot of similarities there, right? The unlikely hero who gets forced out of his comfort zone to try to save the world, Even look at the similarities of, think of Flash Gordon, you've got the little floating head that goes through and zaps the lizard person, right? Well, what do we have in this movie? Well, we got a floating head with a bunch of eyeballs on it. And I think there's a lot of similarities there of maybe where he kind of maybe pulled some ideas from. That's just my theory.
I would certainly agree. And, I just like back to the storms, it's like those guys just come out and like, they don't really do much. I mean, they're there, but they're like bodyguards for David Lopan or whatever. But it's like, how badass are you whenever you can just call down these storm gods? I mean, that's one of those things, like I say, for me, it's an imprint of awesomeness that's like, they serve this ghost guy and they're like, for whatever reason, I guess it's in their best interest that he does his thing. But, I mean, those guys are kick ass, and the way they go out, just like the different ways that they get like the one guy just explodes, like he just takes in all the air, blows up like a balloon. And what's funny is like you say, you just have those certain little tongue in cheeks, like you would have known that he died. But then Carpenter has to blow body parts across the hall. Like, just the different ways that they just, come to their end as the movie progresses.
Right.
But then, at the end, it's like, well, the brain thing's defeated, the storms are defeated, David Lopan's defeated, like the clans are united, everything's kind of back to normal. But then you got Fluffy crawling around on pork chop at the end.
Right.
Like Jack's not out of this yet, and that one he didn't get exploded.
Right.
he got out.
The open end, right? The open end, just like another movie called Flash Gordon. And I think that's always been the thing is why. I mean, you obviously set it up for a sequel, right? And we've been waiting all this time, but there's something pleasing about that you don't end it right. So a little off subject. I'm starting this new thing, right? The second movie I've picked is Silent Rage, right? The best Halloween movie that doesn't have Michael Myers in it. I mean, it's come on, man. It's let's take Lone Wolf McQuade and put him in Halloween 2. That's what they did. But anyways, the ending of it is open-ended, right? because you want to keep this thing running because you never know. I think it was because of the movies of that time. There was a chance that you were going to make a bunch of sequels off of stuff, so you kind of had that open-ended type scenario. And it's a shame we never did get a follow-up with Big Trouble, because I think, where would it have gone next? What would it have led to? Because you defeated David Lopan. There's got to be something else out there,
Yeah.
Just always wondered about that.
Well, David Lopan was all concerned about keeping the ninja from Ninja 3 from coming back, too. So we got to be careful with him. And he's not letting the Seinfelds. He's not letting Seinfeld sit at the restaurant either.
All right.
So he's having his revenge.
Oh. It's kind of like when you see Al Long in anything too, right? I mean, the guy's in every movie that there is, and it's that same scenario. I mean, wow, it's the dude that fought in the street in Big Trouble in Little China, but he's also the photographer, and she's having a baby.
Yeah, or whenever they turn it on, turn it on its side, like whenever you see somebody who's like a badass action star playing like a romantic sidekick or a romantic, something like that. It's like heroes, villains, the whole works, and there's these certain character actors that are just, and his name's David Wong, right?
Yep. Yep.
Lopan.
Right. Yep.
And I was looking at his wiki, and he's apparently he's one of the most credited actors ever.
Sure.
Like he's been in the most movies, TV shows, and plays, and voice acting, and everything else. He's an impressive dude, but
yeah.
It's like he's that guy that was in that thing that you saw that time. Right.
Yeah, between him and Al Leong, those two guys, they pretty much are in 99% of the movies that we've watched in our lifetime. I mean, hey, that's Genghis Khan from, Bill and Ted.
Speaking of Bill and Ted, are you looking forward to the new one?
I am, man. I have high hopes for it. But I will say that I've been burnt before because I really didn't like the second one.
I think the second one, I think Bill and Ted in general was kind of like a place and a time. The second one, because the first one was so good. The second one, I didn't dislike the second one, but I always have sympathy for certain screenwriters because they're like, okay, well, you pretty much did everything in the first one. What are we going to do now? And they're like, robots, like evil robots. Like, all right, let's roll with that one, So, but yeah, apparently they were supposed to save the world, and apparently they didn't do it, or they need to try harder or something.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see how it works out. I'll check it out.
And then John Carpenter just postponed Halloween Kills, so that's kind of a bummer. But there's a lot of bummers going on, so
yeah.
But
I really wasn't impressed with the last one, but who knows? There's always a chance maybe he can redeem himself. Argento kind of went through that same thing too.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah. To me, it's just that reversal of roles thing they did. I just, I've already seen this, right? I saw Chuck Norris kill him.
So you're saying Silent Rage, is that a Chuck Norris movie?
Yeah. Yeah, it's Chuck Norris
that's
fighting
the one
Michael
where
Myers, basically. Yeah,
that's the one where the serial killer's like living in the attic of that building, and
yeah, he's a nutcase first, and then they basically almost kill him, and the surgeons try this new serum on him where he's like, Logan, the Wolverine, where you can cut him and it just heals right back up. So now you got a super killer running around killing people, and Chuck Norris has to put him in his place.
And he's played by the mute guy from Superman 2, right?
No.
Okay.
No. Chuck Norris is played by Chuck Norris.
No, but the bad guy. You know what I'm talking about.
No, it's not the same guy. It's not the same guy. This guy, I don't know. He's freaky looking. Now, I've seen him in a thing or two, but I can't place what else he's been in. I'll have to look it up. But I make references in the new show that, you know, he's not Michael Myers, but they've got him in a jumpsuit and he slicked his hair back so he looks like William Shatner.
You know, that's one of those things that, you know, Predator was supposed to be Rambo in Rambo 5.
There you go.
It was Rocky 5, Rambo 5, or Rocky 5. It was screenwriters having a conversation after Rocky 4, and they were like, if you go any further, if you try to make another movie, it'll have to be like Rocky fighting aliens. And they were talking about it like, okay, well, we could do a Rocky Rambo sort of thing in the jungle fighting aliens. And then as it turned out, they started writing Predator. Yeah. So, you know, stranger things have happened.
That's true.
It would be pretty cool to see what Chuck Norris would do to a Michael Myers type character. So I guess it's out there.
It's out there. It's kind of pointless though, because, you know, you shoot the guy with a gun 6 or 7. I shot him 9 times, right? You keep shooting him, and now you think some roundhouses are gonna do the trick. I don't know. I mean, you know.
Well, it is Chuck Norris, man.
Yeah, that's true. Anyways, that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about Big Trouble in Little China, dang it.
Hey. Well, Big Trouble in Little China has roundhouses, and they also have people that are hard to kill. So, I think, you know, you got the clans fighting each other at the funeral, and then all of a sudden they're all on the same team whenever the crap goes down, and then it's hard to tell, like, because you got some guys wearing white and some guys wearing red, and they're all kind of like switching sides, and you're like, wait, I thought I would have known.
You have to admit, first time you saw that, and that started throwing down in the alleyway, you know you were hooked, man. You know you're sitting there going, oh yeah, this is going to be awesome.
Oh yeah, and then Jack's got his truck stuck in there, and he's like, "What am I gonna do with that?" Like, all this crazy stuff's going on, and there's machine guns and swords and ninjas flying, and
it's incredible.
He like runs over the ghost man with his truck. He's like, ah.
Well, and again, to your credit, you were talking about the 3 storms, right? I mean, you see them just drop in the middle of this. People shooting at them with guns and all that stuff, not even hurting them, and these 3 guys come down and just wipe out everybody. And like you said, they don't have to do anything. They're just that good. Mm-hmm. And I've always found that fascinating. You know, I've always wondered about the one that's got the 2 posts that pop out and it's got the metal claws on them that he's going to fight with. It's like, how do you practice with that?
I think a lot of those ninja weapons type stuff, especially in the 80s, they were like, what looks awesome? Like, what is the most badass looking thing we can do? Whether it's functional or not. Because one of the meanest weapons I ever saw, we were at a museum somewhere, maybe in Houston, maybe in Austin, and it was like this wooden spearhead that had barbs in it, and it was made out of this like really, really thin wood that basically they'd stab you and break it off, and that was their and I'm like, so you got the wood, you got the splinters, and you got the barbs, like there's no coming back from that, like, and they like, oh man, that would suck. So you see, like, how do you practice with that one?
Yeah.
You know, stick it in a deer or something.
Hey, see if this hurts. Oh, that's pretty painful.
You win, man. You win the contest.
The guy with the flying guillotine over is going, oh, man. Wish I would have come up with that.
But yeah, that's the thing with the storms, too, is they're so good and they're just so overconfident that whenever something gets up on them, that they're just taken by surprise and they're just...
Right.
They just exploded.
What about the character change with Henry Swanson?
Like, he puts on the suit and he's like selling used cars.
Yeah, man. Which I don't know if you're a fan of used cars or not, but I love used cars, and that's exactly what he was about to become there. That was hilarious. I love it when he's in there with the prostitute, right? And she's like, "Take your tie off." He said, "Yeah, I understand. my wife bought me this for Christmas. I mean, again, just ad-libbing everything is just so hilarious, man. It feels real. I mean, it doesn't feel like, it's almost like he's just totally off the cuff with half the stuff, and he probably is.
Yeah, he well, and that's the thing with Kurt Russell too, is that he's so versatile, with his ability to act and say lines, but also ad-lib too. I mean, so it's hard to tell. Like I mentioned Big Lebowski earlier, and he's not in it. He's not in Big Lebowski, but like that movie feels like it's thoroughly ad-libbed, and it's not. It's fully scripted, and with good actors, you can't tell the difference.
Got to have the right person in the role. Yeah. Well, so, look, I mean, Snake Plissken, right? I mean, you go from Snake Plissken, who's just over the top badass, to Jack Burton, right?
Who's not?
Yeah. And it's like, wow. I mean, yeah, you're showing some strengths here.
So other, you mentioned Snake. We mentioned The The Thing is
RJ. Yeah.
The Thing is classic. And of course now with the COVID thing, a lot of people are like posting Thing memes. Like once they get the home test, everybody's going to be applying heat and the blood's going to squirt. And like
that's hilarious.
But yeah, man, like Carpenter and Kurt Russell, that was a match made in heaven.
Yep.
Like between so like, and that was one of those things. Like they started a TV together with Elvis.
Yep.
And Kurt Russell was already established. Carpenter was not.
Right.
And so, but then between Snake, between Jack, between RJ, like,
yeah, it's just they just work perfectly together, all the way up till Escape from L.A. I can do without that one.
I could do without that one too, but that's that sequel you're talking about. Like, what could we do? Could we follow the story further? Could we do something different with Big Trouble? I'm kind of glad they left it alone.
Yeah, it could have ended up like that.
I mean, and it's funny too because I mean I was growing up remembering different movie franchises and stuff. And there's that tipping point depending on how old you are when the original comes out, or which ones you see. Like we talk about Jaws and how there's between Jaws 2 and Jaws 3. There's a special place in my heart for both of them. Neither one of them are as good as the first one. Right. And that's on both a technical and an emotional wavelength. Sure. But then, it's like when you talk about like Friday the 13th, the movie kind of started hitting its stride in the second one, the series. The second, third, fourth, say what you want about the fifth. Then the sixth landed, and then everything just kind of went. Like it went up and then kind of came down. Same with the Halloweens. Same with a lot of stuff. But we remember them fondly because it was comfort food. It was always easy to throw in a Halloween 2 or a Jaws 3 or a Friday the 13th Part 4 when your buddies come over and you're just watching popcorn and being like, Yeah. And then you look back on some of these and realize that they're not really all that well made. It was Spaceballs 2, The Search for More Money.
Right.
And
we want you to make it with a smaller budget, but we expect to have a bigger return on it.
Exactly.
That's basically how they do it, and it's a shame. But I don't know. I think if it would have hit, same thing with The Thing, man. Of course I know Carpenter wouldn't have thought about doing a part 2 of The Thing. I don't think. I mean, I guess you could.
Mm-hmm.
But again, that open ending is what makes these things last the test of time because it's a conversation piece. So that was just kind of his trend of the time. But, you kind of wish in your mind because of what you make up for a sequel. But the problem is you're never going to get what's in your mind, right?
Right, exactly.
I think that's the problem.
Well, I for one, I'm kind of glad they left it alone because that's one of those that even like the history and the lore. I mean, it's pretty well explained what's going on, even though it's explained by people running around trying to keep from getting killed at the time. But they explain, you know, there's enough exposition to understand the lore behind what's going on without having to like do a prequel or anything like that. God, speaking of sequels, did you hear like Star Wars Empire Strikes Back is the #1 movie in America right now?
I love it. I mean, you got Rat in the top 20 Billboard because of a commercial, and Empire Strikes Back is the #1 movie in the country. It's like, I keep telling you guys, the 70s and 80s was the best.
It is. Oddly enough, I didn't realize, I read that article this morning on Empire. I've been watching Empire in bites over the last couple of nights. It's on like Disney Plus.
Yeah.
And I just, it's like, I guess Friday night or whatever. I was like, everybody went to bed. I was still awake. I'm like, oh, Empire. I'll watch watch right up. So watch right up to the end of the Hoth scene. Falcon flies off. Luke goes Dagobah. I'm like, done. A couple nights later, like, oh, okay, I remember this. Let's pick up where we left off. Watching it in thirds, but no, dude, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, that's fantastic. Maybe we ought to bring Big Trouble back and run it in the theater again.
Or put it on all the cool drive-thrus. That's something that's coming back.
Yep.
So, well, cool, man. Well, I think that is about, other than our technical difficulties kind of there in the middle, I think that was a fun conversation about the Carpenter classic Big Trouble in Little China.
Yep.
I don't know, what are your thoughts? What did we miss? Like I said, we had a couple of communications issues there in the middle, so I couldn't quite hear what Ricky was saying, so I couldn't exactly respond. I'm going to try to clean that up. And,
well,
and maybe...
This movie has a character for everybody. I think that's the great thing about it. It's relatable to anybody at just about any age. It's got some scary parts in it, but it's not too scary for the little ones to still kind of enjoy it too,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just the right age of gateway horror for young kids. I mean, come on, man. Kurt Russell's just brilliant. It's just fun, man. Everything about it is fun, and because there is only one, is because I think that's why we never get tired of it.
Yeah.
Because if it would have ran its course and there's Jaws 4 and all that stuff, you kind of go, yeah, But I think because this is the only one that there is, then that's because it just kind of lives on, and we never get tired of it.
I agree. And if you get a chance, like I said at the beginning, if you get a chance to just sit down and watch it from beginning to end, and don't try to put on your judgment hat, but just let yourself be taken for the ride, it's a blast. It's a really, really good time. Yep. All right, man. Well, that is it for today. Be sure to hit us up on all of the social media stuff. We got Facebook, we got Instagram, we have got Twitter, we have got YouTube, we've got email. Yeah. If you want to talk to us, we're about there. So.
And if you don't, that's fine too.
Yeah. We'd prefer it if you did, but and then sort of some of the stuff we're talking about now has been inspired by folks who have answered our polls and said some stuff, mentioned that we had some things to talk about. So,
yep.
If you want to hear us talk about a movie or a book or a character or anything like that, hit us up. We will talk about it.
Shooby-dooby.